Hello, everybody. It's Friday. That means it's time for another topic of the week. So, first things first, last week's topic 40K, 8th edition, and you. Some very good responses to that. Check them out. They're down in the description of that video, which is, of course, linked down below. But what I think was most interesting in all the responses is the sheer number of people who are positive about this, excited about this, and most interestingly to me, who are interested to come back to it, who had been away from it for a while. And that was my suspicion, that this is close enough and huge, sort of close enough to the I don't know, the core essential elements, there you go, of what 40K is about, while still kind of refreshing enough that people are willing to come back. I really haven't seen a tremendous amount of negativity. Of course, there are people, it's the internet, there's always going to be people who are upset about things. But for the most part, I think the response was pretty positive. I would call it overwhelmingly positive on what it means to them. Not how people necessarily feel about this rule or that, because whatever, that's all. There's always going to be stuff you don't like. But more the total direction and how it applies to them personally and whether or not they feel that it's worth giving a try. So I thought that was pretty cool. So as we come closer to 8th edition, we get more and more reveals here over this week of kind of the elements of the rules, and in thinking about various elements of existing AOS that have gotten brought into 40K, because clearly there's some inspiration being taken there, obviously. It made me think about the following sort of topic that I thought would be fun to discuss, and that is optional or alternative systems. So, you know, one of the things that 40K is absorbing that came from AOS was sort of the 3 ways to play thing, right? The idea of open, narrative, and matched play. It seems to be going a step farther, wherein you have sort of simple points and detailed points, I guess is what I'd call it. So you can kind of play in either mode. I would call that optional rules, right? Where you're making a choice about the level of complexity you like in your game. And I've always been a fan of that sort of thing. My love of that goes back to 2nd edition Dungeons and Dragons, which very much believed in that as a sort of design principle. And as my own game design, I've always thought that was an important thing to work into the game, where you have alternate systems that people can employ at sort of the level of complexity they want. When I first encountered this in 2nd edition D&D many years ago, there's a good parallel here with things like encumbrance or initiative. In that game, you could resolve those things very easily. That is to say, they could basically be non-factors. Like, literally both sides could just roll 1 die, and whoever rolled higher went first, or whatever. And that could be how you resolve initiative. Or you could get down into the nitty-gritty, and everybody tracks individually and has their own weapon speed, and, like, all these different things interact to create this very complex thing to represent, like, sort of to sort of capture in a gamist construct the nature of how you were attacking, what you were doing, etc. And the trick to that, in my mind, is that neither of those are right. Okay? There isn't a right answer there. There is only the way that you enjoy playing, because both have good and bad. And different sort of psychographic profiles will find different value in each of those systems. I see a very similar parallel here in the 40K points. If you're like me, where you probably don't care enough to worry about the detail, then something like those rough points that are close enough so we can go, let's do this, and forces are roughly equal and good enough, let's just have a game, because I'm more interested in just going. I don't find the list building and sort of tweaking to ever be... I've never found that to be a compelling part of the game. For me. But there are people who love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. My co-host on Warhammer Weekly, obviously, Tom, is a devout list builder. And, you know, he's always, like, jockeying and moving and testing every little thing that he can, you know, 10 less of this and another one of these, and every single little thing gets pushed around. And that provides him a great sort of satisfaction, even outside of playing the game. So I like that both of those are there, because I think when you have those optional or alternative systems, I would call them alternative systems almost, I think that it allows you to have more people play the game in the way that they really love. So that's my question, my topic for this week is, what do you think about optional alternative systems? Oftentimes these can be systems that introduce additional complexity or make the system more granular, more detailed. Do you like those optional rules being there? Do you feel that they can sometimes be a challenge? Because obviously the dark side here is if you have too many of them, right? If this blows up too much, then you can have two groups of people both playing the same game but not playing the same game, right? Where you can show up to a group and they're just playing something completely different than you. So there's clearly some kind of line. But what's your general feeling about optional rules? Alternative systems? Do you enjoy having those options in the game, as long as we assume they don't go too far? Or do you prefer to have sort of the one game, the one source of truth? These are the rules. This is what the game's designed for. It stays in its lanes, and sort of there is a value to that. It lets it completely focus and hone in, right? And it lets you sort of sharpen all your design elements to point toward those core principles. I think there is value to that. So, as always, want to know what you think about it? Drop it down there in the comments, or if you make a response video, link that, and I'll drop that link down in the comments for the response videos. You can always come back here, check out all the response videos. Look forward to the discussion. As always, we'll see you next time.